What happened in this courtroom left everyone frozen, including the judge. In a silent courtroom packed with reporters, attorneys, and nervous spectators, no one expected a little girl in a pink dress to become the center of the most shocking moment in the judge's career. She seemed fragile, barely old enough to understand why she was there. Then the little girl did something no one expected. She gave the dog a tiny secret signal, barely visible to the human eye, but the dog saw it instantly. Rex had already understood her silent plea for help. Rex, the massive German shepherd sitting beside her, lifted his head the moment the girl's hand moved. His ears shot up. His posture shifted. Then Rex growled. A deep, chilling sound that made the entire room jolt. And just seconds later, before anyone could understand what was happening, the judge slammed down his gavel and shouted, "Stop the proceedings!" The attorneys froze. People whispered. What did the little girl signal? What did the dog sense? And why did the judge shut down the entire court? What secret had the girl just revealed without saying a single word? What happened in the next 60 seconds forced the judge to stop the entire trial and exposed a truth no one was prepared to hear. Stay with us. The truth will leave you shocked. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The heavy wooden doors of Courtroom 3C creaked open, letting in a soft echo that carried across the silent room. Rows of spectators turned their heads, expecting another attorney or officer to step inside. Instead, they saw something far more unusual. A little girl in a pink dress, no older than 6, nervously clutching a stuffed bunny in one hand as she walked in. But it wasn't the girl who left the room stunned. It was who walked beside her. A massive German shepherd wearing a crisp police canine vest matched her tiny steps with calm, steady precision. His amber eyes scanned every face in the courtroom, calculating, judging, protecting. Even Judge Harrington, a man rarely fazed by anything, raised an eyebrow at the sight. It wasn't common for a child to testify, but it was even rarer for a police dog to accompany her into the witness stand itself. The bailiff stepped forward as if to intervene, then hesitated when the dog's handler gave a small nod. "He's authorized, Your Honor," the officer said quietly. "She doesn't go anywhere without him." Judge Harrington leaned back in his chair, adjusting his glasses, observing the girl climb into the witness seat with awkward little movements. Her legs dangled above the floor, not long enough to reach it. She smoothed her dress with trembling hands, while the dog sat right beside her chair, posture straight, alert, but gentle, almost fatherly. A hush fell over the room, the kind of silence that grows heavy before something important happens. The attorneys exchanged quick glances. The jurors leaned forward slightly. Even the court clerk stopped typing. Something about the girl's presence, or perhaps the dog's, made everyone instinctively brace themselves. Judge Harrington cleared his throat. "State your name, sweetheart," he said softly, a tone he rarely used on the bench. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She looked at the crowd, then at the attorneys, then back at her lap. Her small fingers twisted the fabric of her dress anxiously. The dog noticed. His ears tilted. His head lowered toward her gently. The judge watched the interaction closely. There was something unusual here, something unspoken, tightening the atmosphere. No one knew it yet, but this quiet moment was the beginning of a courtroom scene that would soon explode into chaos. A scene the judge would never forget. The courtroom waited, breaths held, as the little girl finally lifted her head. Her eyes were wide, not with innocence, but with a heaviness far too old for someone so small. Judge Harrington softened his voice again. "It's all right, sweetheart. Take your time. We're all here to help you." Her fingers tightened around the stuffed bunny, as if it were the only thing keeping her steady. The dog shifted slightly, pressing his shoulder against her leg in a reassuring touch. The connection between the two was unmistakable, a bond formed through something difficult, something emotional, something the courtroom had yet to understand. Across the room, Attorney Miller, the prosecutor, stood with a gentle posture, careful not to intimidate her. "We know you're brave," he said softly. "You came today because you saw something important, something only you can help us with." A ripple of murmurs moved through the spectators, but the bailiff quickly raised a hand, silencing them. Everyone knew this case was different, sensitive, disturbing, and the fact that the key witness was a child made the entire community uneasy. The details had been sealed, but rumors swirled about a dangerous man, about a crime committed close to the girl's home, about a night where she was the only one awake to see the truth unfold. Her mother, sitting in the gallery with tearful eyes, clutched a tissue so tightly it twisted in her hands. She had fought to protect her daughter from reliving the trauma, but the law needed answers, and the girl was the only one who had them. Judge Harrington spoke again, carefully choosing his words. "You're not alone up there," he assured her, nodding toward the dog. "Your friend is with you, and everyone here wants the truth, not to scare you." The girl looked at the judge, then at the big dog beside her. Her lips trembled, but she managed a tiny nod. What the court didn't know, what even the judge didn't realize yet, was just how crucial the dog truly was. He wasn't there as a comfort animal. He wasn't there as a symbolic presence. He was there because he had been trained specifically for cases involving vulnerable victims, especially children who had endured more than anyone in the room could imagine. Today, she wasn't just a witness. She was the key to uncovering the truth, a truth the dog had sensed long before any adult had understood it. And in mere minutes, that truth would shake the courtroom to its core. The German shepherd sat proudly beside the little girl, but there was something different about him, something that made every officer in the room sit a little taller. This wasn't just any canine. This was Rex, one of the department's most trusted service dogs, a dog known not only for his intelligence, but for his uncanny ability to read human emotion, especially fear. Most people in the courtroom had heard stories about him, how he'd once located a missing child in a storm when officers had nearly given up hope, how he could detect a lie by observing a person's breathing patterns and microexpressions, how he always put himself between danger and the innocent. But the most remarkable story, the one only a handful of officers truly knew, was how Rex had bonded with the little girl months ago. It had happened on a night no one wanted to remember. A night when sirens echoed through the neighborhood and officers raced toward a house lit by red and blue flashes. The girl had been found hiding in a closet, her tiny hands covering her ears, trembling so hard she couldn't speak. No adult could calm her. No officer could get close but Rex. Rex walked straight to her, lowered himself to the floor, and gently nudged her hand with his nose. And just like that, the shaking stopped. The child leaned into his fur, and for the first time that night, she breathed normally. Since that moment, something unexplainable existed between them. A silent language, a connection so strong that the department officially assigned Rex to her case. Wherever she went, he went. Whenever she panicked, he sensed it. Whenever she couldn't speak, he understood. Even the judge watched Rex with a quiet fascination. Most dogs shifted, barked, or reacted to noise, but Rex sat perfectly still, as if studying every person in the room, ready to respond to the slightest change in the girl's breathing or posture. Attorney Miller spoke softly toward the bench. "Your Honor, Rex is trained in child trauma detection. He's here to help her communicate even when she can't use words." Judge Harrington nodded, his eyes drifting back to the shepherd. "A remarkable animal," he murmured. But to the girl, he wasn't just remarkable. He was her shield, her voice, her safe place in a world that had once terrified her. And as she nervously rubbed the soft fur on his back, everyone in the courtroom could feel it. Something was building, something Rex could sense long before anyone else, and whatever it was getting closer. Judge Harrington had presided over hundreds of cases in his long career, and he liked to believe he could read a courtroom the way a sailor reads the ocean, noticing every shift, every silent ripple of tension. But today, something was off. Something subtle yet deeply unsettling. It wasn't just the little girl's trembling hands or her wavering voice. It was the way she kept glancing, not at her mother, not at the attorneys, not even at the judge, but at Rex. Every few seconds, her eyes darted to the German shepherd beside her seat, as if waiting for him to do something, or as if she needed his permission to speak. The judge leaned forward, his gaze narrowing ever so slightly. "Sweetheart, is everything all right up there?" She nodded quickly, far too quickly. The kind of nod a frightened child gives when she wants adults to stop asking questions. But Rex had a different reaction. His ears twitched, his head lifted, his body shifted a few inches closer to her. Judge Harrington noticed that too. Attorney Miller stepped forward, adjusting his glasses. "Your Honor, the child can answer a few simple questions. This won't take long." But the judge didn't respond immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the girl, watching how she pressed her palms against her dress, her knuckles turning pale, watching how her breath came shallow like she was fighting a rising tide of panic. More importantly, he watched Rex. The dog wasn't looking at her, he was watching the gallery. His gaze locked on to someone in the second row, a man trying desperately to blend in. The man avoided eye contact, shifting in his seat when he noticed the dog staring straight at him. The judge cleared his throat sharply. "Sir," he said to the gallery, "is there a reason you're so uneasy?" The man jolted, as though caught off guard. "No, Your Honor. Just surprised to see a dog up there." Rex didn't look away. If anything, his posture grew firmer, more deliberate. Judge Harrington's instincts prickled. "Noted," he muttered, before turning back to the girl. "Young lady, you may begin when you're ready." But she didn't speak. Instead, her eyes flicked quickly toward Rex again. A tiny, almost invisible movement. The judge saw it, Miller saw it, and Rex saw it too. But none of them yet understood what that glance meant. None of them realized the girl wasn't just nervous, she was silently asking for help. And Rex, ever vigilant, was already preparing to respond. Attorney Miller approached gently, careful not to make sudden movements. He placed his notes on the podium and softened his voice. "Sweetheart, I'm going to ask you some very easy questions. All right? You don't need to be scared." But the little girl's shoulders stiffened. She didn't look at him. She didn't look at the judge. She didn't look at her mother. Her eyes went straight to Rex. The German shepherd shifted closer, his tail still, his posture tall, a silent reassurance, a shield. The girl's fingers brushed his fur, grounding herself for a brief moment before she pulled her hand back to her lap. Miller cleared his throat lightly. "Can you tell us what happened that night?" The courtroom leaned forward as one, but the girl's silence pressed down on the room like a thick fog. Her throat worked, trying to form words, but no sound came out. Her lips opened, closed, opened again. Still nothing. The judge exhaled slowly, feeling the tension climb. Rex noticed the rise in her heartbeat. He could hear it, smell it, sense the fear radiating off her like heat. His ears perked sharply. His gaze swept the courtroom again. Something or someone was triggering her panic. Miller tried again, voice even softer. "Sweetheart, you're safe here. No one can hurt you." The girl flinched. A tiny movement, barely noticeable, but Rex saw it instantly. He leaned forward, pressing his body against her leg. Miller continued, "Do you remember who you saw that night?" Her breathing sped up. Her fingers gripped the edge of the witness chair. Tears swelled in her eyes, not from sadness, but from fear. Rex's head snapped to the left, toward the same man in the gallery he had stared at earlier. A low vibration formed in his chest, almost a growl, but held back, controlled, watching. The judge noticed. So did the bailiff. The man shifted again, tugging at his sleeve. His face paled. Miller glanced toward where the dog was staring, then turned back to the trembling girl. "Was someone there? Someone who scared you?" The girl's lips trembled. She whispered a single word, so soft, so fragile, half the courtroom didn't even hear it. Rex heard it. Her voice cracked him. She didn't point, she didn't move, she just glanced for half a second in the man's direction. A small movement, a child's silent plea, but to Rex, it was enough. His muscles tensed, his breathing deepened, every instinct in him shifted. Something wasn't right. Something dangerous was sitting in that courtroom, and Rex wasn't going to let it get any closer. A shiver ran through the little girl's body the moment her eyes flicked toward the man in the gallery. It was quick, barely more than a heartbeat, but the fear behind it was unmistakable. The courtroom didn't see the full story hidden in that tiny movement, but Rex did. The German shepherd shifted his weight forward, his chest rising and falling with slow, deliberate breaths. He was reading her, reading the tremors in her hands, the way her knees pressed in inward, the way her lips quivered but refused to speak. Every sign told him one thing. She wasn't remembering fear, she was experiencing it. Judge Harrington leaned forward, toward his microphone. "Counsel, give her a moment." His voice lost its court authority and carried something gentler, concern. Her mother's breath hitched from the second row, a hand covering her mouth. The girl wasn't just nervous, she was collapsing into the same frozen terror she had felt the night of the incident. Attorney Miller adjusted his stance, trying once more. "Sweetheart, who is he to you?" he asked softly. She didn't answer, couldn't. Her chest rose rapidly. Trying to hold back the panic that threatened to spill over, Rex sensed it instantly. He placed his paw on her foot, a move he had been trained to do only during extreme distress. Her eyes snapped down to him, and for a brief moment she inhaled sharply, as though the world around her steadied. But then her attention drifted back toward the man in the gallery, and the panic returned with twice the force. The man stared at her with a tight jaw and a cold expression, trying to appear calm, but failing miserably. Something in his eyes was sharp, angry, warning. The girl felt it like a knife pressing against her throat. Attorney Miller noticed the man's stare and frowned. "Your Honor, I request that the gentleman in the second row be instructed to refrain from intimidating the witness." The man stiffened. "I'm not doing anything," he barked defensively, attracting far more attention than he wanted. Rex didn't flinch. His eyes never left him. The girl shrank into her seat, whispering, "Rex." Her voice was soft, trembling, but the dog heard it like a scream. The judge's gavel came down once, sharply.
No one moves. No one speaks. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Something electric filled the air, an invisible tension stretching across the room, connecting the frightened girl, the watchful dog, and the man who was suddenly sweating under the courtroom lights. Rex's growl deepened, vibrating through the wooden floor. Whatever was happening, the dog had sensed it first, and the explosion of truth was seconds away. The courtroom had fallen into a suffocating silence, every person frozen as Rex's low growl vibrated beneath the wooden floors. The judge, the attorneys, the jurors, every eye shifted between the terrified little girl and the rigid German shepherd standing guard beside her. But the girl wasn't looking at the judge anymore. She wasn't looking at the attorneys. She wasn't even looking at the man who frightened her. Her trembling gaze was fixed entirely on Rex. Her heart hammered so loudly in her chest that she felt it echo inside her ears. She squeezed her stuffed bunny, trying to breathe, trying to speak, trying to find a way to tell the courtroom what she couldn't bring herself to say aloud. And then she did something no one expected. She moved her hand, just a tiny movement, barely visible. Her small fingers curled into her dress and pulled it gently. A soft tug, quick, quiet, almost invisible. Almost. Rex saw it instantly. Officer Daniel's breath caught. He knew that signal. It wasn't something they taught children in courtrooms. It was something they taught only in the rarest emergency cases. A silent distress cue for vulnerable victims. A signal that meant, "I'm scared. I'm not safe. Help me." Rex reacted immediately. He rose from his seated position, muscles coiling beneath him like a compressed spring. His tail stiffened, his ears locked forward, his entire posture transformed from alert to ready. The judge's voice cracked the silence. "Officer Daniels, what's happening?" Daniels swallowed hard. "Your Honor, that was a distress signal. The girl just signaled the dog for protection." A nervous murmur swept through the courtroom. The man in the gallery shifted uncomfortably, his breath shallow, his hands gripping the edge of his seat. Rex shot a piercing look at him, so sharp, so deliberate. The man flinched as though burned. The judge narrowed his eyes. "Bailiff, stand by." The bailiff moved closer to the witness stand, one hand ready, waiting. The girl's breathing quickened. She tugged her dress again, a smaller pull this time, but just as desperate. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't cry. She didn't speak. She didn't scream. She trusted Rex to speak for her. Rex stepped forward, planting himself between the girl and the gallery. His growl grew louder, no longer a warning, but a declaration. Attorney Miller whispered urgently, "Your Honor, the dog is positively identifying a threat. He's trained for this. He wouldn't react unless—" He didn't finish the sentence because right then Rex took another step forward, this one more forceful. He lowered his head, nostrils flaring, inhaling something the humans couldn't detect, a scent, a chemical, a memory. The little girl flinched, hiding behind Rex's broad frame. Attorney Miller spoke cautiously. "Your Honor, the child identified him earlier, and now the dog is confirming the same target." The judge's expression hardened. "Bailiff, move closer to that man." The man stood up abruptly, knocking over the bench behind him. "Don't come near me!" he shouted, eyes wild now. The sudden outburst sent a ripple of fear through the room. Rex barked again, short, sharp, precise. The girl gasped. "Rex!" she whispered, as if trying to hold him back. But Rex knew. He had sensed the truth long before anyone else dared to see it. The scent to fear on the man was not the fear of innocence. It was the fear of a predator trapped. The dog's body surged to full readiness, protective instincts firing like electricity. The judge rose from his bench. "Bailiff, secure him immediately." Chaos erupted. Officers moved. The man stumbled backward. The audience scrambled aside. Through it all, Rex remained fixed, unwavering, a living barrier between innocence and danger. And deep down, every person in that courtroom knew Rex wasn't reacting to a mistake. He was reacting to the truth. The moment the man leapt to his feet, fear rippled through the courtroom like a sudden storm. Jurors pushed back their chairs, spectators gasped, and the mother in the second row clutched her chest as if her heart had stopped mid-beat. But Judge Harrington didn't flinch. He slammed his gavel so hard, the sound cracked through the chaos like a thunderclap. "Enough!" his voice boomed. "Everyone stay where you are." The room froze. Rex stood rigid, every muscle shaped into a protective shield. His body blocked the girl entirely, but his eyes stayed locked on the man who now looked less like a confused spectator and more like someone who had been cornered. The bailiff approached cautiously. "Sir, sit down and place your hands where I can see them." The man backed up another step, bumping into the wooden divider behind him. "I swear I didn't do anything. This dog is insane." "No," Judge Harrington said coldly, rising from the bench. "This dog is trained, tested, trusted, and he is reacting to something you are doing." A murmur rippled through the gallery. Attorney Miller cleared his throat, steady but shaken. "Your Honor, Rex is responding to a confirmed distress signal from the child. She identified him earlier." The judge nodded slowly, his expression hardening. "We're not dismissing that." The man threw his arms up. "She's just a kid. She doesn't know what she saw." Rex snarled a deep, resonant sound that sent waves of tension through the room. It wasn't a wild threat. It was precise, deliberate, as if the dog was telling every adult in the courtroom, "Listen to her, protect her, stop him." The girl whimpered behind Rex, clutching the dog's vest with trembling fingers. She didn't speak, but she didn't need to. The terror in her eyes told the judge more truth than any testimony could. Judge Harrington stepped out from behind the bench, a rare, powerful gesture. "Mr. Bailiff, detain that man for questioning." "Now!" The man panicked. Wait, you don't understand." "Oh, but I do," the judge replied, his voice colder than stone. "You're scaring a child witness, and you've triggered a fully trained protection canine. That alone gives me every legal right to halt these proceedings." He turned to the courtroom clerk. "Mark it on the record. The court is in immediate recess." Gasps followed. The judge turned to the officers. "Clear this room. Secure the witness. Secure the child's mother, and get that man into custody." Rex stepped forward again, positioning himself between the man and the officers escorting him. The man's eyes widened in fear as the dog's presence loomed over him. "This is ridiculous. This is a setup." "No," Judge Harrington replied. "This is justice responding to danger."
With a sweeping motion of his hand, he pointed toward the exit. "Everyone out. Court is adjourned until further notice." Rex remained unmoving, steady as a wall of stone, ensuring the threat was removed before the little girl even stood from her chair. And for the first time that day, the courtroom realized the judge believed the dog more than the man. The courtroom emptied in a rush of footsteps and murmurs, but Judge Harrington remained standing, eyes locked on the man, being restrained by two officers. Rex stayed right where he was, body tight, muscles still humming with alertness. Even though the room was mostly empty now, the tension clung to the walls like smoke. The little girl clung to Rex's vest, her tiny fingers gripping the fabric with desperate strength. Her mother knelt beside her, wrapping her arms around her, but the girl didn't respond. Her gaze was fixed, haunted on the man the officers were now pressing against the wall. Officer Daniels whispered to the judge, "Your Honor, Rex's reaction is consistent with identifying a perpetrator. Something about that man is triggering him heavily." Judge Harrington nodded slowly. "Let's see why." He approached the man, stopping just a few feet away. "State your name." Larson swallowed hard. "Tom Larson." The judge's jaw tightened. "You weren't listed as family. You weren't listed as a witness. You weren't listed as a friend. So why are you here?" Larson stuttered. I came to support the defense. I heard about the case." Rex barked sharply, cutting him off. Daniel stepped closer. "Your Honor, the dog is signaling deceit." The judge narrowed his eyes. "Then let's check the records." Within seconds, an officer returned, breathless. "Your Honor, we pulled his ID. That's not Tom Larson." The judge's heartbeat kicked up. Then who is he? The officer handed over a small folder. The judge flipped it open, and his expression darkened. He has a record. A violent one. The mother gasped softly, her hand flying to her mouth. The judge continued reading, voice lowering. Multiple assault charges, restraining orders, and he froze at the last page. He was seen near the girl's neighborhood the night of the incident, picked up on a traffic camera. The man's face drained of color. The mother's breathing hitched. Oh, God. Attorney Miller stepped forward, voice trembling slightly. Your Honor, that places him at the scene. The girl whimpered, her voice tiny but clear. He told me not to tell. Every officer in the room turned toward her. Her mother broke into quiet sobs. The judge placed a gentle hand on the bench, steadying himself at the weight of her confession. He said he'd hurt Mommy if I did, she whispered, using Rex's fur as a barrier between her and the world. Rex shifted, positioning himself even more firmly between her and the man. The judge's voice turned to steel. Take him into full custody now, and reopen the investigation immediately. The man panicked, thrashing against the officers. She's lying, she's lying. But no one listened, not after the girl spoke, not after Rex confirmed it, not after the evidence revealed the truth. For the first time since the trial began, the courtroom saw the full picture. The girl wasn't just scared, she was the only witness who survived him. The moment the officers dragged the man away, the little girl's composure shattered. She buried her face in Rex's fur, sobbing, so quietly at first that only the dog could hear. Rex lowered his head, nudging her gently, creating a shield around her small body with his frame. His steady heartbeat and warm breath were the only things keeping her from collapsing completely. Her mother rushed forward, falling to her knees beside her. Baby, it's okay, it's over, she whispered through her own tears. But the girl shook her head, trembling violently. Judge Harrington stepped down from the bench, something he almost never did, and approached slowly, careful not to overwhelm her. Sweetheart, you're safe now. No one is going to hurt you. She gripped Rex tighter, knuckles white, breaths short and sharp. He said he'd come back, she choked out. He said even if they took him away, he would find me. Her mother sobbed louder. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Attorney Miller stepped forward, voice trembling slightly. Your Honor, request permission to speak with the child in a gentler capacity. I believe she wants to talk, she just doesn't know how. The judge nodded. Miller knelt a few feet away, giving her space. Sweetheart, can you tell us what happened that night? Only if you feel brave enough. Rex is here. Your mom is here. We won't let anything happen to you. The girl lifted her tear-filled eyes toward Rex. The dog stared back at her with quiet strength, as if telling her he could handle whatever truth she carried. And for the first time, she spoke more than a whisper. He came into my room, she said shakily. I heard the door creak. I thought it was Mommy, but it wasn't. Tears streamed down her cheeks. He told me to stay quiet. He grabbed my arm. He said if I screamed, he'd hurt Mommy. Her mother covered her face, sobbing into her hands. Rex shifted even closer, pressing his head under her arm like a lifeline. The girl clung to him. I tried to run. I tried to hide, she cried. He pulled me back. He said he'd come back for me if I ever talked. Miller's eyes glistened. And Rex, he found you, didn't he? She nodded slowly. He came later. When the police came, I was scared. I was hiding in the closet. Her small voice quivered. Rex found me. He sat with me until the sun came up. He didn't move, not even once. The judge exhaled, visibly shaken. This child's statement is enough to reopen everything. The girl wiped her tears but kept a tight hold on Rex. "Can he stay with me?" she asked, voice fragile. Judge Harrington didn't hesitate. "He won't leave your side. Not for a moment." Rex nudged her again, sealing the promise. For the first time since the nightmare began, the truth was finally in the open, because a brave little girl found her voice, and a loyal dog refused to let her face her fear alone.
The judge stepped out then, his face tired but warm. "She's safe," he said quietly, "and until this case is fully resolved, Rex stays with her. Consider it an order." The girl hugged Rex's neck tightly, whispering into his fur for the first time since the ordeal began. She felt safe because her hero walked beside her. The late afternoon sun filtered through the courthouse windows, painting soft golden lines along the hallway floor as the little girl walked hand in hand with her mother. Rex trotted loyally beside her, his steps perfectly in sync with hers, as if promising with each movement that she would never walk alone again. Outside, the police vehicles hummed quietly, their lights no longer flashing. Detectives spoke in low tones, preparing the next steps of the reopened case. But the tension of the courtroom had dissolved, replaced by something gentler: respect, admiration, and a collective understanding that justice had taken a powerful turn that day. The girl paused near the courthouse doors. She looked down at Rex, eyes still tired but no longer filled with fear. Slowly she knelt and wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in the soft fur at his chest. "You saved me," she whispered. Rex responded with a soft whine, nudging her cheek as if assuring her he'd do it again 1,000 times. Her mother knelt beside her, placing a hand on Rex's back. "We'll never forget what you did," she said, voice trembling. "You're our hero." Officer Daniels approached with a warm smile. "Rex wasn't just doing his job," he said gently. "He was protecting someone he loves." The girl looked up at her. "Can he stay with me forever?" Daniels glanced at the judge who had just stepped outside behind them. Judge Harrington gave a small, heartfelt nod. "He's officially assigned to you until the case is closed," he said. "And unofficially, I don't think anyone in this department has the heart to separate the two of you after this." The girl's face lit up in a way it never had inside that courtroom. She hugged Rex again, tighter this time, full of hope, full of relief. As the officers escorted the mother and child toward their waiting vehicle, Rex jumped in behind them, settling beside the girl as though the seat had always belonged to him. The door closed gently, the engine started, and for the first time in a very long time, the girl leaned her head on someone without flinching, because Rex was there. Some heroes don't wear capes. Some don't carry badges. Some simply stand between darkness and the innocent. And sometimes the bravest one in the room walks on 4 paws.